It's not making sense of it. I mean, you're the last person to be in a vehicle you wiped out of a lady that's missing.
That sounds really fun.
It does. That's why we're here.
I've been real honest with you guys. I told you what was going on.
The detectives managed to get Prince to admit he was with Edna on the day she disappeared. While Prince tried to convince them he was helping her meet a suspicious private investigator, they know it's a desperate attempt to deflect suspicion and distance himself from the crime. Prince insisted he dropped Edna off at her home, safe and well. But the detectives established that he was the last person to see her alive. And because of this interrogation, they locked him into a lie that would eventually lead to a chilling confession. When detectives search Prince's property, they find several automatic weapons. Because of his previous convictions, he's forbidden from owning any firearms. That means he could be facing a federal charge and be detained for even longer. While he's detained, they continue to search his land and find one of the most crucial pieces of evidence yet, a yogurt cup. This is the yogurt he bought shortly before Edna disappeared, and it's laced with a cocktail of drugs. Lorazepam, tramadol, and cyclobenzaprine can cause central nervous system depression when they're combined. When this happens, the body's neurological functions slow down. In other words, you're under sedation, exactly as Edna was in the parking lot when she was seen in Prince's car. After feeding her the laced yogurt, there's nothing Edna can do to stop him, and she's led away to her death at the hands of this sadistic killer. Prince begins to realize he's cornered and has nowhere to run, so they bring him back in for more questioning, where he makes a full confession as he admits to 3 more murders, including those of Lee Goodman, Dolores Sellers, and her daughter, Nancy Rigo. The first victim was Dolores. Daniel had euthanized Dolores Sellers at the request of her daughter, Nancy Rigo. However, Nancy began to have second thoughts and wanted to contact the police, putting her directly in the crosshairs of Daniel Prince, a mentally disturbed serial killer. Nancy Rigo was now his second victim. Even worse is the fact that for several years, Daniel began receiving Nancy's social security checks because she had given him her power of attorney. Moreover, the search of Daniel's property would also reveal several of Nancy's documents. Since 2017, after her murder, Daniel pretended to be Nancy by sending her family emails and messages in an attempt to prevent them from thinking that she was dead. Daniel's third victim was Lee Goodman, who allegedly attempted to rob him, according to Daniel. Much like Nancy and Edna, her body was disposed of in some desolate area. And finally, Daniel's fourth and final victim was Edna Suttles, whose body would be found 1 year later on May 16, 2022, in a grave close to Daniel's home in Rutherford County. Although decomposed, officers were able to positively identify it as Edna and return the body to her loved ones. But even in the face of his crimes, he would never let go of his chance to leverage as much information as he could.
There was quite a lot of stuff found in your bee house. There could be a million explanations for some of that stuff, and I don't want to jump to conclusions. And if there's something that happened that you didn't intend to happen, let's talk about it.
There are things that have to happen, and there are things that are going to happen. And I'm a realist, and I have acceptance of this. I would like a little bit of control in how they happen. If you tell them to turn that off, I will talk to you a little more freely.
When they turn the cameras off, Prince makes a final attempt to take control and influence the outcome in his favor. Daniel Prince avoided a trial by making a deal with authorities. He would tell them about the location of Edna's body, and in turn, his case would go federal because of the better living conditions in federal prisons. Not only that, but he would also avoid the death penalty and instead receive a life sentence. One would think that the detectives were naive to turn off their cameras and not record Daniel's confession, but unbeknownst to Prince, the investigators keep the backup audio recording running after shutting down the camera. This is the chilling confession he made.
Okay, let's put it this way. A person I was very good friends with wanted to do something to put someone basically out of their misery that was very closely related to them. That's one body. That person started having an extreme amount of guilt over this and decided they were going to go tell what had happened. That's the second body. There's a third body that I did not kill, and I knew that they'd be getting Social Security disability for the rest of their life. So I got rid of said bodies, for example, so that I could continue to use the car.
By any chance, while he's getting all